The Ultimate Husband. By Sky Kissing Wolf. Episode 49. He objected. Every member of the Linden family looked at Daryl, feeling that he was shameless. Old Grandma's face turned dark and unhappy as she asked, "What did you say?" Daryl laughed coldly and clearly said, "You faulted my wife regarding the incident on Giselle's show before investigating it thoroughly. You dismissed her position without understanding what had happened. Isn't that too reckless?" Old Grandma's expression worsened, looking sharply at Daryl. "You mean I wrongly accused Lilybud?" Daryl was about to speak with confidence. However, at that moment, William could not hold back as he slammed the table, shouting while pointing at Daryl, "Who do you think you are? We are in Linden family meeting. Since when can you speak freely here? What makes you think you are qualified to challenge Grandma's decision?" Daryl glared at him coldly. "I'm only asking for Grandma to make a thorough investigation before making a conclusion. What are you fussing about?" "Shit." William blew his top, and was about to break into a fight. Thinking of what happened during Grandma's birthday dinner recently, he was tortured before he could raise his fist, so he stopped, but looked angrily at Daryl. Daryl looked around, turned to William and said, "Giselle had a problem with her earpiece during the show. I believed she was being set up and I believe the person behind that knows it himself." His words were really obvious. However, no one believed it. William was furious. "Why are you looking at me when you speak? Explain yourself, and do not simply accuse." Daryl raised his voice and said, "I did not say it was you, so why are you so emotional?" At that moment, Grandma could not hold it anymore and she scolded, "Daryl, if you speak nonsense again, you need to get out of here." She did not even look at Daryl when she spoke. Regarding Giselle's incident, the old grandma would rather believe it to be Lily's folly that it was William who was behind it. Previously during her birthday dinner, Grandma had stated clearly that if Lily were to choose to admit Daryl as her husband, she should not address her as Grandma anymore. Grandma was extremely unhappy seeing Daryl appearing at the meeting, but she did not speak up earlier, thinking of her own grand status. She did not expect the useless one to accuse her favorite grandson in front of everyone. Seeing that Grandma was furious with Daryl, everyone felt happy in their heart. Wentworth, who had been sitting quietly on the side, squeezed his brow and said, "Daryl, sit down. Stop fooling around." Lily was nervous too and said, "Please stop talking nonsense." Samantha did not speak, but her face was filled with disgust. This useless one really was nothing good and he would only make things worse. Daryl was calm despite everyone staring at him. Grandma spoke deeply, "Fine then, that's it. Lily will never interfere with matters in the company anymore. You are all dismissed." As everyone was just about to leave, a sexy voice could be heard coming from the door of the meeting room. "Hold on." At that moment, a beautiful figure walked in. It was none other than Giselle. Dressed in a simple body-hugging top with a short black skirt, Giselle looked even sexier and attractive. Everyone went silent, seeing Giselle's appearance. They were all in shock, but they would have guessed why she was there. She was definitely there to look for someone to blame. At the same time, the eyes of the men in the room all lit up. No wonder she was the ambassador for the Platinum Corporation. Giselle really looked perfect. She had a super sexy body figure which was flawless. Grandma was surprised and greeted her politely. "Miss Lint, please take a seat." Giselle, who was an artist under the Platinum Corporation, had a very bright future in showbiz. Thus, the grandma of the Linden family dared not treat her with disrespect. Seeing Giselle's arrival, Lily felt troubled. She wanted to apologize, as she could not deny her responsibility for what had happened to Giselle during the show, but she just could not open her mouth to say it. Giselle did not take a seat, but walked right in front of old Grandma. Daryl was sitting there and wondered how she dared to take a seat. Grandma quickly said, "Miss Lint, are you here because of the show? I am really sorry." We, the Linden family, will definitely bear the responsibility. Please be assured that I will investigate the matter thoroughly. She then pointed at Lily and continued, besides, I have relieved Lily from her duties. I can guarantee that there will not be a similar incident again. Hearing that, poor Lily, standing on the side, had a shiver. She really had no hope anymore. Giselle looked calm as she said, I have already investigated it. After a short pause, Giselle smiled at Lily and said, Ms. Linden, don't be nervous. You are not responsible for what has happened. What? Lily was not responsible? Episode 50. Is it real that it was someone else's fault? Everyone was stunned. Grandma was shocked and asked, What happened, Miss Lint? Giselle did not answer. She only smiled lightly, turned and looked at William. When Giselle mentioned that she was going to investigate, William was still thinking he would be lucky. After Giselle turned and looked at him, he knew that he was in trouble. Giselle then spoke toward the door, Get in here, the three of you. Immediately, the three backstage staff members of the show walked in with their heads down. Once he saw the three people, William's head went spinning. He was stunned, but still pretended to be calm. Giselle said to the three of them, Tell the truth. As instructed by Giselle, one of them looked up and looked around the room. His gaze stopped when he saw William. It's him. This Mr. William Linden instructed us to do so. Another one of them added, swallowing a big gulp of saliva, Yes, he gave the three of us a sum of money and asked us to cause a malfunction on Ms. Lint's earpiece. There will be more reward once the job is completed. The third person did not speak, but kept nodding his head, and staring at William. What? It was William? Hearing the words of the three staff members, everyone was in shock. William's face looked confused too. William's face turned red and he cursed, What the stit? Seeing Giselle's face, he swallowed his words. William had always been rude. However, he tried to hold back as Giselle was there. She was representing the Platinum Corporation. You three bastards, don't simply accuse me. Do you know who I am? Have you thought about the consequences? Trying to hold himself from cursing again, William stared at them fiercely. The evil look on William's face was rather frightening. At that moment, the grandma of the Linden family walked over and said, This is serious. The three of you better think carefully. Was it really him that gave you the instruction to do so? Although Giselle was the one who pointed it out, Grandma still refused to believe that William would have done such a job. Looking at William's evil face, as well as the pressure coming from the old grandma of the Linden family, the three backstage staff looked at each other, worried. By telling the truth, they would have pissed off William. However, it would not be worse than pissing off Felix Blakely. Who would dare to piss Felix off? I have proof. One of them opened their mouth, and the other two took out their cell phones simultaneously. I have the money transfer record from my Linden to me in my cell phone. Me too. I have not spent a single cent of it. Wow. With evidence right in front of everyone, it had to be believable. Suddenly, the room broke into chaos. Old Grasma's face turned green. She was furious and her body was shivering. She pointed at William and said, William, why did you do that? William's mouth was wide open, but could not speak a word. At that moment, William lost all his fierce evil expression, and looked like a deflated balloon, sitting paralyzed on the floor. Lily, who had been feeling troubled all along, finally sighed with relief. Ms. Lint, this is the result of my terrible teaching. Regarding this matter, what do you think? Old Grandma was furious that she almost fainted as she looked regretfully at Giselle. Even at that moment, the old grandma was still trying to plead for William. Although William made a huge mistake, he was still her favorite. Giselle was calm, but she had no room for mercy. The incident now is clear. No matter what, this matter was caused by your Linden family. You have the rights to decide, but do not make me feel disappointed." Old Grandma nodded her head in shame. She turned and stared angrily at William. "You really let me down. I always looked up to you. From this moment, you are not to interfere with any matters of the company. You are grounded for the next half a year. Stay put at home." William cried as he begged. "Grandma, don't, I am wrong." Grandma ignored him, and smiled at Giselle. "Miss Lint, are you satisfied with this outcome?" Giselle did not speak, but looked toward Daryl. Episode 51. When she saw Daryl nodded, Giselle turned to Granny Linden and said softly, "Well, that will be it." The old lady felt relieved after Giselle consented to her request. Things would be easy as long as Giselle agreed to let the matter slip. However, the very next moment, Giselle said, "But I have one condition." "What's the condition, Miss Lint?" The old lady responded quickly. Giselle walked toward Lily and stood beside her. Then, she looked around the room and said, "From today onward, Lily will be in charge of my public image and other related matters. I trust her. No one else from the Linden family is to interfere with her work. Do I make myself clear?" "What?" Everyone was dumbfounded to hear that. Giselle had given Lily her full authority, and no one else could do anything about it, not even Granny Linden. "Sure, Miss Lint. We will give our full support." Even though Granny Linden was not satisfied, she had no choice but to endure the bitterness in her heart and nodded with a smile. After the old lady have her promise, the Linden family's younger generation could not hide their envy when they looked at Lily. Despite the temporary decline of Giselle's public image, Platinum Corporation had worked hard to stage for her comeback. She had the endorsement of a rising star, so Lily would definitely make it big. William Linden was so regretful about everything that had happened. There was a small crack of smile at the corners of Giselle's lips when she turned to leave. Giselle had a perfect figure. The men ogled at her as she walked away. Suddenly, she stopped by Daryl's side. "Brother Daryl, I shall take my leave if there is nothing else you needed," Giselle respectfully said as she bowed to Daryl. "What? Brother Daryl? Did Giselle just call that trash, Brother Daryl?" Everyone was dumbfounded, their mouths were opened wide. Even the old lady had almost fallen off her chair. Daryl decided to ignore the surprised looks from the Linden family as he nodded at Giselle. "Yes, go ahead." Giselle obeyed Daryl and strode away on her high heels as if she had received an imperial decree. After Giselle left, Daryl stood up, stretched his arms, and said slowly, "How ridiculous it was that we needed an outsider's help to get the truth for something that happened within the family." His tone was unabashedly sarcastic. The old lady's face changed, she was embarrassed. Everyone else was also speechless, and they wore an indecipherable expression on their faces. Eventually, Daryl also walked out of the meeting room. As soon as he was outside, Lily's soft voice echoed from behind him. "Hang on, Daryl." Daryl stopped and turned around to look at her with a smile. "What's up, honey?" Lily bit her lip shyly when she heard Daryl addressed her so affectionately. If it were in the past, she would be angry to hear that. However, at that instance, she merely asked him, "Did you know about the truth before you came here? And what's your relationship with Giselle?" Lily's tone sounded a bit strange, especially in the last sentence. Daryl chuckled and teased her. "Are you jealous?" Lily's face turned red almost immediately. "Yeah, what's wrong with me? Why do I care about his relationship with Giselle so much? Giselle and I are classmates. I only learned about what had happened after I called her," Daryl explained with a smile after he noticed that Lily was shy about it. Lily finally knew what had happened, but she was still doubtful about one thing. "Well, if she is your classmate, why is she so polite to you?" Daryl struggled to explain it. Coincidentally, his phone rang, which was a nice save for him. Oh, the boss must have found out that I sneaked out. I can't talk any longer, I have to get back to work. Daryl hurriedly waved goodbye to Lily and then strode outside. He took out his phone, and the caller ID showed Yvonne Young. Daryl, do you have time? I need your help with something. Yvonne spoke quickly as soon as Daryl picked up her call. She sounded anxious. Sure, I'll come right away. Daryl nodded. From her tone of voice, he knew that it must have been something urgent. He was keen to help even though he was not sure what had happened. He had quite a good impression of Yvonne. Episode 52. Daryl headed to Pear Pavilion after he got off the phone. As soon as he got out of the car, he saw a massive crowd in front of Pearl Pavilion. The onlookers seemed to have been drawn into the excitement. When Daryl walked in, he saw the owners of the antique stores next door were in a heated discussion. This must be a counterfeit. Yes, it does look like a fake one. When Daryl walked past the crowd and into the store, he saw a bald man in front of the counter with a colorful porcelain vase in his arms. It looked like he wanted to sell the vase, and the people around him doubted the authenticity of the item. The people in front of the bald man were Yvonne Young, Peter Williams, and another middle-aged man. The middle-aged man wore traditional Chinese attire and a pair of glasses. He had the image of a master. He was Yvonne's father, Kingston Young. He was also the head of the Young family, the most famous antique dealer in Donghai City. Kingston stared at the vase. There was also a familiar figure amongst the crowd. It was Elsa Linden. Why is she here too? Daryl wondered about that. On second thoughts, the Linden family and the Young family had been quite close, so Elsa might be there to hang out with Yvonne. As Daryl processed the thought, he peeped at Elsa. Elsa was a gorgeous woman. As expected of beautiful people, they would look good in anything they wore. Elsa was dressed in a wine-colored spaghetti strap dress and her hair in an intricate updo. She was not only sexy and charming, but she was also graceful and elegant. Elsa was surprised to see Daryl there too. Why is he here? Is he here to join in on the fun? Elsa recalled the incident where Daryl commented on the bracelet she gave her grandmother at her birthday banquet. Somehow, she found Daryl interesting. However, the two had rarely met and were not even close. Hence, Elsa only entertained her thoughts but did not greet Daryl. Kingston appraised the vase in the bald man's arms. Everyone around him craned their necks to see it. They were quiet as they were highly focused and perhaps tensed by the situation. Even the owners of the antique shops held their breath. As the head of the Young family, Kingston was a scholar of great attainment in the antique industry. He was at a master's level. Who would dare to boast before him? Your porcelain is quite exquisite in appearance and delicate in texture, but from its shape and design, I cannot tell if it is an ancient artifact from any era. Kingston examined the porcelain for quite some time before he shook his head and spoke to the bald man. The bald man's eyes flashed shrewdly, and he smiled. The Young family has a prominent presence in the antique industry. Are you saying that even Manager Young could not appraise this porcelain vase? Please don't tease me. Kingston smiled faintly. The porcelain production began in the Han Dynasty and gradually matured through 5 dynasties, until the Tang Dynasty. It was not until the Qing Dynasty that the skill came to maturity. Before the Qing Dynasty, most of the porcelains were of classic and simple designs, whereas in the Qing Dynasty period, the designs were exquisite and gorgeous. The vase that you have here are of simple and naturally derived designs. It resembles the Tang and Song Dynasty's styles. However, the colorful glaze is too ostentatious. It is more like the styles of the Ming and Qing dynasties, and Tay bottom is an oval shape which resembles the Western style. At that point, Kingston's lips curled into a spurious smile. Even though your vase is extremely fine and exquisite, it is neither fish nor fowl. From my observation, I can infer that it should be a modern creation. I must say that the craftsman who did the firing is rather skillful. As soon as Kingston finished talking, everyone looked at him admiringly. Indeed, Manager Young is knowledgeable. That's right. I was unsure just now, but after listening to Manager Young, it's intelligible. We rarely see Manager Young display his skill. I have gained a lot of insights today. Kingston was happy and proud to be praised and admired by the several owners of antique stores. Yvonne Young was stunned when she saw the bald man went at No Pearl Pavilion with the porcelain vase. Many of the antique store's owners would not be able to tell if the vase was genuine or fake. Hence, Yvonne made a quick decision to call Daryl and her father. The bald man smiled mischievously after he heard Kingston's verdict. Since Manager Young said that this vase is not an ancient artifact but rather, one from this century, then may I ask if you know the notable porcelain maker who made this piece of art? Kingston frowned, he stood irresolute. Then, Daryl came forward. Perhaps, I can have a look at it. Everyone present was stunned to hear that. Young man, you were luck last time. Are you here to play the public again? Manager Young had made it clear just now. Why do you need to appraise it again? Yes, just leave already. Don't make a fool of yourself. The owners of antique stores burst out in laughter. Is there something wrong with this young man? Manager Young had set a conclusion, and yet he wanted to say something about it. Is he questioning Manager Young's judgment? For more episode, don't forget to subscribe.